Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. I have been loving this fresh, open Legacy format. I've been 5-0ing with some absolutely wild stuff, and today I'd like to thank Anthony C. for giving me a dealer's choice donation deck list. So I combed the recent 5-0 deck list trying to find the thing that was most interesting to me, and it's Affinity. But Phil, it's not Affinity. There's not actually an Affinity card in the deck list. I know. What are you going to call it if not Affinity? All right. So, although the mechanic Affinity was originally on cards like Mirror Enforcer that got cheaper for every artifact you controlled, in this modern day and age, Affinity tends to refer to artifact-focused aggro deck lists. And this deck is packing some really neat artifact synergies. With Etched Champion, which has protection from all colors as long as you control 3 or more artifacts, as a, well, just frankly damn near impossible to remove threat, as well as Cranial Plating, which makes everything real big. And Cranial Plating's older sister, Nettlecyst, who is very angry and comes with a Germ token. Notably, the Nettlecyst also counts enchantments, which can end up being relevant. But it's not these cards that really got me interested in the deck list. It's a couple of little things. Masterwork of Ingenuity is a really neat card. For 1 mana, you could have it enter the battlefield as a copy of any equipment on the battlefield. I don't know, like maybe that'll be relevant. Hard to say. Okay, maybe copying this last one isn't good because, legendary rule. But what's really neat about this and why I'm so interested in this deck list is this is a card that you can search off of Urza's Saga to give you another threat. You have a Nettlecyst, your opponent used a Swords to Plowshares on the creature, you Urza Saga, make some constructs, they answer that, and oh no, here's another Nettlecyst that your opponent has to answer. This is also just like a super mana efficient card. And notice here that this is a May ability. So in those worlds where you don't have an artifact, or sorry, an equipment to copy with this, you can still just play it as a 1 mana artifact to, say, grow your Urza's Saga tokens, or contribute to your Cranial Plating count. By similar logic, Phyrexian Metamorph is another copy of everything that is in this deck, or maybe your opponent's big dumb things, such as Atraxa. The other thing about this deck list that really rustles my jimmies is 4 copies of the Mycosynth Gardens. Let's see, so it's on the 8th for you all, which was a Wednesday. I played a Phyrexian Dreadnought Mycosynth Gardens deck list, and we got to see exactly how powerful this card could be. Well, when I can go and copy my Nettlecysts or whatever, or my Cranial Platings, this can be a huge amount of damage from nowhere. And if you take a look at this mana base, like this is a 24 land mana base that just has like all the utility in the world attached to its mana. So like we have fast mana, we have artifact lands that are also indestructible. All this stuff is going to be growing Urza Saga tokens. Like this main deck is sleek, and it even has some like wild choices in here, such as four Retrofitter Foundry. The idea being that we can just funnel 2 mana into this every turn and continuously make our Cranial Platings and Nettlecysts that much stronger. The sideboard here is very targeted, although I will say if I have one critique about this deck list, I'm not sure that I'm as sold on Warping Whale as the creator of this deck list was. Like, this is a spell that has a lot of utility. It can be a counterspell for something like a Doomsday or a Show and Tell. It can be a removal spell for, your Mother of Runes or whatever creature you need to get out of the way. But historically in the past, I've never been, like, super impressed with Warping Whale unless the metagame was kind of warped. And right now our metagame's pretty open, and a Warping Whale isn't going to answer something like, say, an initiative creature. Like, it's not going to be the best removal spell. I hope that I'm wrong about my card, but like we'll see come the end of the video. Yeah, but I'm really excited to try this out. I love artifact-based decks like this. They hold a special place in my heart, and every time that I can just like play an Ornithopter and then immediately throw it into a Retrofitter Foundry to create a 4/4 on turn 1, like it just feels good. Anyway, if you're new here and you like what you see, please consider subscribing, and if you're a regular, throw me a like before this video begins. It is the easiest way to support my content for free. Let's battle. Okay, I have a Retrofitter Foundry and a Cranial Plating. I think I can do better than this. This is better. It's weird. I just get a 4/4 on turn 1, followed by a 4/4 on turn 2, followed by Urza Saga tokens. Not where I really thought we were going to start with this, but here we are. Really hoping to not play against Blood Moon. I also cannot overstate enough how bad a Force of Will would be here. Okay, it's in play. Let's do some Ornithopter nonsense. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to play out the second Ornithopter. It depends on what my opponent is playing. It's possible that I lose one of these Ornithopters to a removal spell for playing it out like this, but then again, my opponent could like Thoughtseize me, take an Ornithopter, and I've currently blanked a Thoughtseize, so like that's a thing. Seems like we are playing against some sort of 8 cast variant. End of turn. Sacrifice a Thopter, pick up a 4/4. I'll play a Mox Opal. I think I end of combat Wasteland this seat. I just effectively have 8 power in play already. Our opponent drops to 16. Blow up that land. Play an Urza Saga. Call it a turn. There's an Urza Saga of my opponent's own. I will go ahead and pick up another 4/4. And we're doing the beatdown thing. Cranial Plating is kind of hot as a draw. Another, what, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's another 5 damage this turn. This exposes me to a counterspell, but I think is okay. That's fine. Still just 8 damage here. Alright, opponent goes to 7. Opponent pitched Thought Monitor to Force of Will. Alright, battle means this construct can rumble in combat with my own stuff. And it's 2 mana to create a critter with this, so I can't make another one in this turn cycle. I need to take a... Oh, you're going to make your thing now before I can get Pithing Needle. Yeah, that's reasonable. I need to take a quick look at my 1-drop options. I think I'm getting an Aether Spellbomb. So then for 1 blue, I just bounce this construct and I have lethal. Meaning that I don't actually want to make a construct with this, because it costs me my blue source. Aether Spellbomb, blue, bounce that. Alright, good stuff. Turn 4, Goldfish here. So, I could Warping Whale Emeries and Size. Could dismember those same creatures. Could Pithing Needle my opponent's artifacts. Have some minimal graveyard hate that I could board in. Imagine I don't really need to sacrifice Hope of Girapur. It's a fetchable flyer, but it seems like I have a bunch of other utility cards that I probably would want to fetch first. I don't know that I need 2 Pithing Needles. I don't know, it's like such a reasonable draw. Protection from all colors is a little bit less good in this matchup, but it still battles through like Kappa Cannoneers and stuff. Welding Jar is weird. I don't exactly know how I want to sideboard. Some of my stuff like Jete is really weird, where it's very high variance for how good it's going to be. Very mana intensive and kills slower than Cranial Plating and Nettle Cyst do. I think I'm going to trim a champion for some dismembers and call that good. I'm unsure whether or not that Jete should remain in the deck. I am not impressed by this hand. I don't have the mana to get to these Nettle Cysts, and Urza Saga is a disappearing land. Mycosynth Gardens, Shadow Spear, Mox Opal, 2 artifacts, play Wasteland, play Jete 3rd artifact, turn 3 Nettle Cyst, turn 4 2nd Nettle Cyst. This is pretty medium, but I don't know that I want to go to 5. And I risk throwing back Jete and then not get Metalcraft. I actually have 2 very powerful 3-drops. I hope the answer is yes. I think that's what I'm going to do. I don't feel great about this hand. Alright. So are we Emery-ing? We are Emery-ing. Gives my opponent a decent amount of card draw options between Bobble and whatever else they mill. Or Nettle Cyst. Not what I want to see. I don't have any power in play, so I don't like the idea of wastelanding my opponent. Let's go Gardens. Into Shadow Spear. And then I'll drop an Opal. whether or not my opponent wants to crack their bauble now. The answer is no. All right, my opponent has seen a Nettle Cyst, a 3-mana card of some kind. Sai is what I do not want to see. And Emery is going to replay a bauble. My opponent's going to get ahead very quickly here. Opponent draws their card for the bauble. Not the biggest fan of my situation here. I just kind of have to hope that Shadow Spear can get me out of this in some capacity. Shadow Spear, Nettle Cyst as a way to gain life. It is admittedly a very, very, very large amount of life. Alright, so my opponent has seen Nettle Cyst. They're going to rebobble. Let's just yield to that. That's just going to be happening. Oh, my opponent's got a Kappa Cannoneer. Kappa Cannoneer plus Sai is real gross, by the way, in case you haven't played with that before. Because an artifact enters, triggering Kappa Cannoneer. Sai triggers, triggering Kappa Cannoneer again. I think with the Kappa Cannoneer in play, I am realistically not beating my opponent anymore. I'm going to take another draw step and see if anything changes my mind here before I concede. Sure. I will take a token, end of turn. My opponent gets a bunch of cards. Haywire Might, notably, is a non-creature artifact. I guess since my opponent knows I have the Nettle Cyst, there's very little harm in me playing it out. Okay, there's a Force of Negation. I think with that, I'm more or less comfortable just conceding. I guess I could draw, I don't know. I don't even know that I can just draw like City of Traders and get out of this. I think the Kappa Cannoneer just finishes me off next turn. It's already 7. And like will grow further from there. I'm taking at least 10 damage this turn. Yeah, I think between the Evasion and Kappa Cannoneer at this point, I no longer have realistic outs. I'll value my time here. Today's not feeling great. I'm willing to go down another body as well. 2 Warping Whales, 1 Pithing Needle, 1 Warping Whale. Question mark, question mark, question mark. Warping Whale's just like so slow. I guess it's reasonable when I'm on the play though. Go 2 Warping Whale. It does hit Sai and Emery. Ooh. 1 Retrofitter Foundry, turn 2 Cranial Plating. I don't really have a creature immediately without tying up a bunch of my resources. I'm going to try to do better than this. Fail. Keep this pitching 1 Warping Whale. Be ever so slightly sad about it. Alright. Citadel. Opal. 1 mana. Retrofitter Foundry. Metalcraft is on. Metalcraft is not on. Force pitching Thoughtcast. I guess I'm kind of hoping that my opponent is all in on something like an Emery that I can just take out with Warping Whale, because if they're not, hard to imagine myself winning. Alright, Pithing Needle. Nettle Cyst, Cranial Plating, Urza Saga, Wasteland. Sure. Alright, draw your card. Ancient Tomb. I will play that out this turn so that I can keep this persistent land around later. Worth my 2 life to play Cranial Plating. It has resolved. Again, though, we're seeing the problem with keeping a hand that does not have a threat, right? This Cranial Plating is great in the future, but is doing nothing for me right now. Thoughtcast is a sorcery. Not the way that I imagined using this card, but we'll take it. You got a Force of Will pitching a Sai. I mean, I'll take it. There's a Petal. There's an Emery, and this is the sort of thing that I wanted to use the Warping Whale on, but that was just too juicy to not bite on given my opponent's mana situation. Threat or removal spell would be perfectly reasonable as a draw. The Wasteland is a kick in the teeth. And unfortunately, it's also my play. So this gets to start recycling Urza's Bauble and getting my opponent out of their current situation. Mishra's Bauble instead. Okay, Emery's going to go for the Mishra's Bauble. We'll see if my opponent waits to get more information or if they just want to draw 2 cards to dig towards a Force of Will more immediately. Is what they're doing. There's something else here. Palace of the Void. A little surprised to still see that in. I don't know what my opponent's sideboard is like, but like they've got stuff like this that they boarded in. Not a great first round showing here. Emery targets a bauble. I'm not dying immediately, but I'm woefully behind. Okay, yeah. I am like 4 cards behind at this point. I think 5 actually. I mulliganed as well. Sure. I'm getting to the point where like Kappa Cannoneers and such can start coming into play. There's a plating. Not like my artifact count is even that high right now. Like, it's 4. I can give +8 power to a creature, but I think as soon as a Sai or Kappa Cannoneer is on the other side of the battlefield, I just can't win. Yep. I'll eat 2 in combat. Again, not really ready to concede yet. My opponent's not killing me that quickly, but I expect that I've lost. Alright. The little ornithopter that could. We're in play. And we're angry. And power ornithopter. Gets chump blocked every turn for the rest of the game. Because that's what Emery does. Or not. I'm not blocking that. I'm not going to block and let you just recast that. Emery targets Bobble. And Bobble draws a card. Okay. There's a real win condition. When it gets their card, I'll play another land and attempt to do a crime with an ornithopter. I don't expect it to work because my opponent attacked here. So surely I'm going to like eat a Hurkyl's Recall or something, right? A Dismember, yeah, that's fine. I mean, it's really not fine, but it occurred. So my opponent will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 sevens off Urza Saga. Oh yeah, life's bad. So I am in an uphill battle here that I do not expect to win. Again, though, can't really concede because I could just draw like Nettle Cyst into Shadow Spear, and then all of a sudden I swing this game and I just like pretend that my opponent has no counter spells whatsoever and live my blissful happy life. That's too slow. My opponent can now get a Shadow Spear or get a Pithing Needle or just choose a random card in their deck that they're allowed to legally search and probably kill me. I honestly could just die this turn. My opponent has 9 power already. They only need 3 more. 2 of it's already showing. They can get a Retrofitter Foundry and kill me. Or I guess activate Urza Saga again. There's the Shadow Spear. 8, 9, 10, 11. That's 12. At this point, I'm willing to concede. I can see the win on board. We bottomed out really hard after some bad mulligans there. Or what I think are good mulligans, but they didn't pan out. Okay, what does this hand do? Turn 1, Wasteland, probably Haywire Might. Turn 2, Saga, Cranial Plating. Turn 3, City of Traders, Urza Saga, Equip. It's like not the worst. Doesn't feel sexy. It doesn't need to feel sexy. I also could just Pithing Needle some fetch land in the dark. I don't really know that I'm down for that though. Okay, yeah. Good choice not to do that. Do I want to Cranial Plating Equip given that? I don't think so. Let's just get in for my 1 point of damage. Put my opponent to 19. And I think we do start the whole Urza Saga train. There's a temptation to just like Wasteland Pithing Needle this turn and play Cranial Plating by using a City of Traders, but in the situations where my opponent doesn't have Wasteland, I really like getting this Saga going now and staying aggressive. If I use the Pithing Needle too early, I might lose the opportunity to name something important like a Stoneforge Mystic. I also don't know that my opponent is playing Death and Taxes. Like, they could be an initiative deck. Could be a Cephalid Breakfast deck or something. Okay, my opponent went AFK for like 5 minutes, played a Scrubland and passed. What is a Scrubland deck that's playable in Legacy? Some sort of scam deck? Sort of Dead Guy Ale deck? I think my opponent's just getting wasted. Let's just do that. Oh, it just happened. Cool. Care about this Urza Saga Construct token. If I don't care about this Urza Saga Construct token, I can just play Retrofitter Foundry, Pithing Needle on Marsh Flats, and equip Cranial Plating and get in for a shit ton of damage. My opponent didn't have swords last turn. I think that's fine. Pithing Needle, doing Marsh Flats, play Retrofitter Foundry, equip Plating, 5 damage. And this will speed up very quickly. Get wrecked. Don't feel bad. So, we'll make our token. Go ahead and get on in there. Grabbing Masterwork of Ingenuity. Have it enter as a copy of Cranial Plating. Play a new City of Traders. Sacrificing the old one. Equip Cranial Plating to a Haywire Mite. Go to combat. Deal my opponent 13 of their remaining 14 points of damage. And they're at 1. Okay, and we've beaten our opponent without really knowing what they're doing. The good news is the answer is almost certainly a fair white-black deck of some kind, but I don't really know why they kept their hand if they're a fair white-black deck. Like, they didn't play a turn 1 or turn 1 play, so almost certainly if they're doing something fair, their hand should have been a mulligan. Could have been some weird opener from, I don't know, some sort of Tin Fins deck or something. In the absence of information, let's do a quick lookup. My opponent is known for playing initiative decks in multiple formats. Let's assume they are on a black-white initiative deck list, in which case Torpor Orb should come in and Dismember should come in. I'm going to leave a Pithing Needle in case I'm wrong and there is like some Stoneforge Mystic type stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Soul Guide Lantern. Maybe I will board out the Pithing Needle. Board that out. I can board out Hope of Ghirapur. It's a searchable flyer, though. Searchable flyer matters. We get rid of Gingerbrute. It's just a dude, though. Dudes are nice. I guess my opponent's on black-white scam. Most of their creatures are bigger, and Jete isn't the best. Get rid of that by the fact that this is potentially a creature mirror. But yeah, my opponent should have mulliganed their hand if they are playing black-white initiative. That deck is capable of such incredible violence, and I saw none of it. My hand's medium. We just have a turn 1 4/4, a turn 2 4/4, a turn 3 4/4. That's fine. I can do it while wastelanding my opponent. Not the biggest fan of this. Your Cabal Therapy resolves. Good luck. Cranial Plating is a hit. Mox Opal is really fucking good. Let's go Ornithopter. Ornithopter. Mox Opal. Wasteland. Wasteland Scrubland. Retrofitter Foundry. Ornithopter. Pass. And that Mox Opal was probably my best draw in my deck. Create a 4/4. Not the best. Or is it? I'll attack for 4. Bring my opponent to 16. I can tap this, make a 4/4. Yeah, have 3 total mana, untap this, make another 4/4. Okay, maybe Mox Opal was indeed a bonkers draw. Alright, you're a 4/4. Load of mana. Play new Mox Opal. Keep Mox Opal. Untap. Pass turn. I'll just be attacking for 12 on turn 3. Yep, okay. Pedal's fine. Okay, seems like my opponent has no play again. Sacrifice the Thopter. I have 12 power in play. I don't really need an etched champion here. Attack my opponent for 12. They go to 4. Yeah, I'll pass the turn. I'll make a Thopter, or sorry, a Servo at my opponent's end step. Oh, it's the Rector Fit deck. Sure. Yeah, Rector's fine. Like that. Yeah, I've got colorless stuff. That's not a problem. It's like Ugin doesn't matter, Kaya doesn't matter, Bolas doesn't matter. Those are the 3 that are in here. Yeah. Okay. I want to make myself big. This is important. The London Mulligan is so powerful. So incredibly powerful. Like, please, I beg you, use your mulligans. My opponent played 2 games of Magic there, and basically made no decisions. Like they played a Cabal Therapy targeting me, and like they got to name a card with Cabal Therapy, and then nothing else they did in the entire match mattered because they did not interact with me in meaningful ways. Like I know I get criticized a lot on this channel for like mulliganing a ton, but the reason why is because like mulligans give you so much power and agency in your games. Okay. This hand almost does a lot of things and does do a lot of things with like one more artifact. I think I'm going to keep this one despite some of the inherent awkwardness here. Just kind of see where it goes. Pithing Needle. Do I want to play this? Mostly like like what land drop do I want to play on turn 1? I think I just want to play a couple Etched Champions in the dark here. So I think I'm going to lead on Mycosynth Gardens. Cast an Opal. Cast a Pithing Needle. I assume my opponent will fetch a blue-black land. Ooh, it is basic island. They'll just name Polluted Delta. Do I want to shoot higher than that? I think I'm just going to name Polluted Delta. Just not knowing what deck my opponent is on. Okay. So we're probably on some sort of blue-white or Bant control deck list. In which case, Etch Champions look kind of hot. I think I just start spamming those, and Urza's Saga becomes the late game plan. This should be a round where we get to see Etch Champion shine. Like, these, in theory, should be a major pain in the ass to remove. So no turn 1 or turn 2 play. Ooh, maybe some sort of standstill deck list. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could go 5, 6 and just play Etch Champion into Etch Champion this turn. That is a beating. The issue is this is protection from all colors, and my opponent has ways of getting colorless blockers that are larger than 2/2s. I don't want to metamorph my Pithing Needle on Urza Saga. That's weird. Alright, let's attack while I think about this. Get on in there for my 2. Opponent goes to 17. My Urza Saga is better than their Urza Saga. Alright. Play Urza Saga. 3 mana like so, Etch Champion without taking extra loss of life. Alright, your Urza Saga can tick up. Assuming no random, I don't know, currency converter nonsense or something this turn, my Etch Champions still get to attack in one more time. Is a big deal. I think I play a new Mycosynth Gardens. I think I do this. A life for it. Cast a Phyrexian Metamorph. I regret how I did this. I don't regret how I did this. Pitching Daze. Yeah, I was supposed to activate my own Urza Saga first. Alright, so get on in there. For my 4 points of damage, put my opponent to 12. They can do their Urza Saga nonsense. But yeah, I was supposed to activate my Urza Saga. Sure. I was supposed to activate my Urza Saga first. That I could either copy the token or copy Pithing Needle, depending on what my opponent did. Lots of really strange lines here. I like this. Alright, my opponent is going for a construct. I'll go ahead and make mine in response. Mine will be bigger than my opponent's, at least for now. Okay, Shuko, we are in the Cephalid Breakfast ballpark. Okay, what is the exact text of this? Non-token artifact, so I can't copy this. I can copy a Pithing Needle at instant speed, though, which is pretty cool. Let's make a critter. Spellbomb's not bad. Just take a relevant artifact out of the way and try to close this game. Given that my opponent's at 12, I think I like that. Okay, so Mycosynth Gardens does have extra text. So I can filter for blue, return that creature, play Mycosynth Gardens, activate this targeting Pithing Needle. Oh, I guess I don't rename. That was dumb. Maybe it wasn't dumb. It still gives me an artifact, which matters. Like, I have lethal next turn with either construct. I guess I would have had that lethal before. Okay, sure. What can stop me here? Orum's Chant? Okay. That is an Orum's chant. No combat for me. Alright. I should have copied a thing, end of turn. It doesn't matter, because it's like another kicked Orum's chant is the only thing. Yep, okay, sure. Land drop pass. Okay, we got a little lucky there, I'm not gonna lie. So, I like interaction here. Thinking about these cards over here. I think this goes. I think I need slots. I think some of this stuff has to go. What are the stats on Cephalid Illusionist? It is a 1/1. The weird thing here is like I have to respect Urza Saga and potentially Stoneforge Mystic while also respecting this combo. I can't go just absolutely batshit insane where I lose to controlling elements. Let's assume Welding Jar's not good. I would need 3 more cuts here. Gingerbread is probably expendable. Etch Champion is probably expendable. Metamorph's weird. Sometimes it's like a bonus Torpor Orb for redundancy or something. Etch Champion's also like really weird against Urza Saga though. This is Mana Light. It has good interaction, but I can't actually deploy a threat to close out this game. I'm gonna ship that. This hand is perfectly reasonable. The real question is just like, what turn do I play Torpor Orb? I think I throw back Gardens here. Garden serving as an additional copy of Torpor Orb in the mid game is really cool. And like keeping it makes me more likely to be able to wasteland my opponent if they fetch early. Other Saga is not what I'm looking for. I do not believe that I can play this Torpor Orb on turn 1. It's just so awkward if my opponent's next play is Stoneforge Mystic and I don't play this here. Fucking do it. Okay, cool. I just think my land drops are far too awkward if I just jam turn 1 Torpor Orb. I lose out on just so much like Urza Saga value, or I wouldn't have. I would have ripped. I'm not going to play around days here. Alright, we're in play. No shuffle for the Ponder, meaning my opponent wanted 2 of their cards. They got a wastelandable land there. I will be very happy to take advantage of. Assuming my Torpor Orb's still on the table. Prismatic Ending can happen. Alright, no shuffle. There's a Nomads in core. And passing the turn. I think I'm willing to ride an Urza Saga to victory here. Take out a Tundra. Drop City. Call it a turn. Ooh, there's red in there. Probably for red Elemental Blasts and Prismatic Ending for a higher number. I've got a 2/2. Alright. Activate Urza Saga. Ooh, that's not bad. Activate Urza Saga again. Here I've got options. I can Pithing Needle the Nomads in core that's in play. I can pick up Graveyard Hate. Don't really have the blue to pick up Spell Bomb. I want to just dismember this Nomads as soon as I think it becomes a threat. I might just cage. I think I'll just cage. Play a new Urza Saga. I'm fine losing the land. Fine with going aggressive on life total here and not giving my opponent a chump block opportunity. This also just keeps like Nomads plus Lightning Bolt if my opponent were to do that sort of thing from hindering me. I guess something that would beat me now is something like a Meltdown. Yeah. Real good. Why do I talk? Sure. There's a Mox Opal. Make tokens, I think. I think just make tokens. They just get big so quickly. I feel like we've lucked out a bit. My opponent has 7 cards in hand, and like I know they just meltdowned me, but they're not doing nearly as much as is possible. Alright. New critter. Things are 4/4s. I have 3 mana for Cranial Plating and Equip here. I think I just pick up another piece of protection. Throw a Soul Guide Lantern into play. Let's not have a meltdown ever come back. Boom. Lose City. Plating. Good enough for Force of Will. Pitching a Narcomoeba. I will crash in for 5. And I, in theory, have lethal next turn. Second meltdown. So I guess I'll draw a card here. Just need a land here. Hey, a land. Yeah. Yeah. 3 mana for an Etched Champion that just kind of has protection from everything. Call it a turn. There is a Cephalid Illusionist. Currently not really a problem with a Torpor Orb in play. Protection from all colors. I will crash in for 2. Put my opponent to 6. And here I have some options. Kind of like just creating another Torpor Orb and just 3-turning my opponent while not losing to some sort of end-of-turn bounce spell or removal spell. I think I'm going to do that. Alright, cast Metamorph. Force of Will, pitching Force of Will. Sure, my opponent's mana is tight and they don't have access to white mana. The squid comes on in. Is fine. Bring my opponent to 3. And then I'll drop a Pithing Needle. And now I have to like play the guessing game of like Shuko versus Nomads in Core. Nomads in Core is probably the faster kill. And my opponent hits a white land. Like it's something that reasonably could be stuck in their hand. I'm gonna name Nomads. Also not crazy to just name a fetch land here and try to keep my opponent off of white. Okay. Torpor Orb is bounced out of play, which is scary. Sure. That's super frustrating. So my opponent's going to mill their whole deck. Alright, so my opponent has 2 Meltdowns and drew both. 2 Brazen Borrowers. Alright, I mean, that's a frustrating loss. There was not a lot. Wow, my opponent had 1 Shuko and 1 Nomads in core as ways to combo. Unless... Yeah, there's 3 cards in hand that I can't see. There legit might be 3 copies of Nomads in core in my opponent's hand. I could legit play Warping Whale now. That I know there's just a giant fucking pile of Meltdowns coming. Play some number of these. Welding Jar is also not crazy. My opponent's controlling elements aren't all that controlling. I don't think I can board out any more creatures if I board out all of these. Meltdown is just so annoying. Get rid of this Spell Bomb. You get rid of 1 Foundry. This plays turn 1 Ornithopter, turns it into a 4/4 and starts attacking while having surgical backup and then being able to play Cranial Plating on turn 2. This is fine. Again, not necessarily the sexiest hand in the world, but it should do the job. Alright. I will respond. I'll make a 4/4, and you can decide whether or not you want to shut off this Wasteland or this Retrofitter Foundry or whatever. Okay. It is Wasteland. This is fine. Play Urza Saga. Go to combat. Bash in for 4. Opponent goes to 16. I'll drop a Cranial Plating. Hope to not eat a Meltdown, although Meltdown would destroy Pithing Needle, which does things. Sure. Got a fast shuffle. No, that was a fast keep. Don't love red mana. Yuka's fine. That gives me a Pithing Needle target. Soul Guide Lantern. Alright. Equip this here. Cast Pithing Needle on Shuko. Force pitching Narcomoeba. This is half my opponent's life total. They're at 7. Here's to hoping no Meltdown this turn. Yep. That is fine. I, in theory, can beat that. Alright, so Narcomoeba is happening. Do I want to Surgical Narcomoeba? By Surgical Narcomoeba, it forces my opponent to then chump block with Cephalid Illusionist. No, I can just kill through a chump blocker for 1. I think this is a fine moment to act. Out to Surgical Narcomoeba. My opponent's hand is 2 Meltdowns. Alright, cool. The other one's in exile. I think we're just good now. I just get Shadow Spear and get a trample kill. Alright. Float mana. Okay. Get Shadow Spear. Equip here. And that is the match. GG. I bet my opponent wins that one if they just cast meltdown and play a longer game. Like 2 meltdowns is insane versus my deck. This is a good, honest Magic hand. I think I keep it. I like start attacking with Cranial Plating on turn 2 if I want. My opponent is bantering a little bit. I think I'm going to show this one on screen. Yeah, I'm old, so I don't look noobish. Thank you. Your timing is beautiful, given, like, lessons in previous rounds. Alright, Island Cantrip. I wonder if I'm supposed to play City of Traders on turn 1 instead of Darksteel Citadel. I can do much scarier things if I do that. Ooh, I drew Retrofitter Foundry. In that case, I think just playing that on turn 1 off Darksteel Citadel is correct. So let's play Foundry followed by Ornithopter. I sequence this way so that, like, Retrofitter Foundry on turn 1 is not a scary play. Retrofitter Foundry with Ornithopter is, so if I play Ornithopter first, Retrofitter Foundry is more likely to get countered. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Fuck. Okay. Let's see what my opponent's bringing to class. I will be bringing Nettle Cyst. F. Well, that's pretty good. It's hard for me to beat that. I have so much power in play, but yeah. All she wrote, I don't have like blue mana to top deck Spellbomb and do a bouncy bounce. Ugh. This is where Warping Whale is going to look good. Don't know that I want to play any of this other stuff. Mindbreak Trap is super narrow. So, like, I get rid of Jitte, Soul Guide Lantern. Might technically has text. Needle's not the best. I'll get rid of Etched Champion. Do something that looks like this. I don't want to play this matchup. I'd like to mulligan my entire matchup. This doesn't quite feel strong enough. It's turn 1 Ginger Root, turn 2 Nettle Cyst, but I don't love this, and I think I can do better. This is definitely better. This probably very awkwardly turn 1 Urza Saga. I think I get rid of Nettle Cyst here. Very hard for me to ever play that card. Alright. So we'll kind of do the same sequence as last time. Saga into Foundry, play my Ornithopter afterwards, and end up with a 4/4. For most of the rest of the game, I can hold up Warping Whale for Show and Tell, but I can't do that on turn 1. So if I get, like, that whole Ancient Tomb Show and Tell here, I just die for... Okay, not dead. Alright, let's make a 4/4. The pressure is real with Ancient Tomb on the other side of the battlefield. Oh god, that's such a good draw. Love that for me. Very rarely do I think, man, I would love to draw Ornithopter. But we are living in that timeline. Also, I might just kill next turn. I haven't done math. But it sure feels like I kill next turn. Alright, there's a city. Oh, that's a sneak attack, which does not get Warping Wailed. I boarded out my needle, didn't I? Boarded out my needle. Oh, fuck. Please. Oh! -8 power. Unless I Warping Wail. Guess I will Warping Wail. Say no to that. I sure hope my opponent's dead. It does not take a lot for them to kill me if they are not dead. So I can hit for 8. Counting the Urza Saga artifact that I search up, I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 artifacts. Not quite lethal. I think the cranial plating hit is a good idea. Go fishing in there to see if I can find something better. Don't have blue mana for a Spellbound bounce. I don't have green mana for Haywire Might, which otherwise would be stellar. I think this is just my play, Ornithopter. So I will Cranial Plating, equip it to one of my constructs I can attack. This is 13 damage, and unfortunately, it is 6 permanents in play. It is a very relevant number. I've taken my opponent off of fetching. Oh. Oh. That's nice. Okay. I now know that my opponent is blue-red. A lot of meltdown going on today. I must say I'm not a fan of. I need both Pithing Needles. I've got to make some more space. Shadow Spear probably goes the way of the dodo. One etched champion from there. Reasonable as possible. I'm supposed to do Nettle Cysts instead. They do different things. Like the Nettle Cyst is a faster threat, but etched champion can attack through something like Grizzlebrand or an Atraxa that's just shown in. Opponent is going to 5. Oh, opponent is going to 4. I am good versus sneak attack. I am not great versus show and tell. I have a pretty fast clock. A fast clock might involve not playing Pithing Needle. My opponent's fastest starts, in theory, involve 4 cards that beat me. Soulland, other mana source, show and tell, fatty. So we'll see how much of that they have available to them. Looks like it's cantrip time. Sorcery Speed Brainstorm. I know how I feel about that. Warping Whale's great. I don't believe I'm supposed to hold that up this turn. I don't believe I'm supposed to hold that up this turn. I believe that I am supposed to try to dodge for 1 turn, get my clock into play, and then hold up Warping Whale for the rest of the game. Daze is fine. I would much... supposed to play Ornithopter there, in case I want a Cranial Plating. Attack. I'm not going to, but I'm still supposed to play out the Ornithopter, I think. So I will play Gardens, and now drop an Ornithopter. Ponder's fine. I believe I'm going to have Mycosynth Gardens copy Darksteel Citadel, because I know my opponent is playing down, and more indestructible artifacts is nice. Copy that. An Ancient Tomb. That's totally reasonable and good. I believe that's my land drop of choice here. Drop a Cranial Plating, and pass while holding up Warping Whale. Like, I want to clock my opponent, but I don't want to just lose the game to a show and tell. Alright. They're just fetching to shuffle for the Ponder. How much mana do I need right now? Like, do I want City? It's 1 mana to equip this, and then I can either have 4 or 5 mana. This is fine. 1 mana. Whip here, and hold up some extra mana. I will also Pithing Needle here. Alright, my opponent has let it happen. I can name Scalding Tarn. Since I have a counterspell for Show and Tell, I think I'm fine doing that. And I'll bash in for my 5. Mycosynth Gardens can copy Cranial Plating at end of turn and represent a very large amount of damage. City of Traders is bad for me. Alright, it does not just immediately throw Sneak Attack into play. Meltdown. I have to counter that. They know. Like, as much as I want to fight over other cards, Gardens can just copy Citadel now, right? Costs me no mana. Am I going to want to just copy Plating, though? Probably. Woohoo! Yes. 2 mana. Cranial Plating. 1 mana. Equip. Mycosynth Gardens. Copy Cranial Plating. Cranial Plating. Equip. Attack with an Ornithopter for 21. That was very satisfying. GG. Before our next round here, a quick thank you to DJH, Brick Cat, Ryan D, Anti-Theist Anarchist, William S, Scorish, Dylan K, James A, Luke's Iterna, and Harrison. Thank you so much for supporting my content via Patreon, and if you haven't already, please remember to join the Discord. Alright, back to the magic. Alright. I don't have a turn 1 play. Every turn after turn 1 is kind of fire. I think I keep it. It's a little weird. It's mostly just awkward when my opponent wastelands this Ancient Tomb that I'm going to play on turn 1. And I think I could have a half an hour conversation about whether or not I'm supposed to play out this Mox Opal. Like Prismatic Ending versus Chalice on 0 versus Thalia versus Thoughtseize. A lot. Good old Honest Plains. That was Esper Sentinel on your bingo card. Let's go a 4-mana Nettle Cyst and pay the tax here. This is only the first one each turn. I will go ahead and play Mox Opal, where the tax does not matter. And next turn, I in theory have 6 mana for double Etched Champion or Etched Champion Phyrexian Metamorph. I technically have 7 mana. Let's see what our opponent is playing. It seems like something in the general, like, Maverick wheelhouse. Yeah, that's pretty good here. That's also reasonable for a turn or two down the line. 2 mana. Yeah. 2 mana. Etch Champion number 1. Etch Champion number 2. Nothing to do with the extra mana here. I'll bash in for my 4. Okay. Everything's fine so far. Things could get a little weird. I'm hoping I just kind of came out ahead of this Outland Liberator. Wasteland is totally reasonable. Yep. Alright, so now whenever it attacks, destroy target artifact or enchantment. Reasonable. I just metamorphing more Etched Champions. There's also like lines involving moving Nettle Cyst for guaranteed damage. Nettle Cyst equip cost 2. Pretty convenient. Go ahead and pay this. I am just going to copy an Etched Champion here. Do City, float my mana, equip 2 an Etched Champion, trying to force the sacrifice. In theory, 9 unblockable damage. Back blow up Nettle Cyst. Ooh, that's a spicy meatball. Okay, yeah, alright. So I don't know exactly what we're playing against, but we're in that green-white Reclaimer, Maverick, Green Sun, Zenith land. Dismember's reasonable, Warping Whale's reasonable. Sifting Needle's variable, but okay. Grafdigger's Cage is maybe okay for Green Sun. Warping Whale doesn't kill Collector Roof. Hope of Garapur can go. That becomes a Dismember. I want both Dismembers for sure. Probably want to keep the Soul Guide Lantern to clear out the graveyards for like Life from the Lone Wasteland or Night of the Reliquary or something. Bulging Jar is not the best versus exile-based removal that I'm expecting from my opponent. I think this is all I'm going to start with until I see more of my opponent's deck. This hand doesn't do anything. Too many Ornithopters. This hand is reasonable. I think I pitch Mycosynth Gardens here. And keep both of my 1-drop plays. Alright. Mana pass, which lets me Retrofitter Foundry on turn 1. A little awkward that I'm doing it off of this land. Like some Collector Oof type things that could happen, but I want to play this land for Nettle Cyst, so that is what it is. If my opponent has just a turn 2 natural Collector Oof. No. But now I get one of those, like, do you always bolt the bird scenarios? And I think this time the answer is no. There's just other cards that I care about in this matchup so much more that I think I let my opponent keep their bird. 3/3 to start with. Wouldn't be surprised if it eats the Swords to Plowshares at end of turn. And that indeed happens. Offsetting some of my Ancient Tomb life loss. Okay. Are in Abzan. Grist is solid. Sure. I will take some bonus damage from that. Saga is very good here. I'll go ahead and play that. And abuse the ever-loving shit out of my life total. Dropping a Nettle Cyst. Long term, I will Retrofitter Foundry and then double equip it with Nettle Cyst. That's fine. Good with this happening. Plague Engineer occurs. That is going to eat my Dismember. I assume that name's Servo. Yep. A Peatland. No Noble Hierarch attack. Indicates some spell option. I'm not exactly sure what. Urza Saga goes up. Probably just play another Urza Saga, right? Urza Saga token plus Retrofitter Foundry token. My turn. I activate Urza Saga, play land, activate Urza Saga. Yeah, I don't want to do any sorcery speed Nettle Cyst shenanigans. Oh, okay, no spell, it was just sacrificing Nurturing Peatland. That is reasonable. Take your insect. Ooh, happy to mill over that. Alright. Now we do things. Make idiot. Make other idiot. I'll make a new creature with an Urza Saga. Opponent's fetching, so they don't get that land needled. They have a lot of power here. So I have a lot of options for what I can do. Opponent's got 3 cards in hand. I maybe don't want to get too aggressive. I think I'm just going to shut off Grist. Like, it's very possible that I just overwhelm that in other ways. But this seems fine. Nettle Cyst up a Servo. There's 18 incoming power. I guess I don't have Urza's Saga token up anymore after equipping a Nettle Cyst. I guess I will just go with the equip here. Okay. That's fine. Swords gaining 8 is still very strong. Send this at my opponent directly. And my opponent takes the hit. Got a very strong position here, and that'll end with a 4-1 league. So we've made it to the end of the league. This is the point where I'm supposed to talk about my overall thoughts on the deck list, and honestly, I don't know what to tell you today. The scoreboard says good things, and I had a lot of agency in this league and a lot of decisions, but ultimately I don't know how I feel about this one. Like, I like a lot of what's going on here, but I don't know, it just feels to me like there's a lot of sequences of cards that you can draw that are just like a little bit awkward. And there were a lot of cards in this deck list that I like frequently boarded out and didn't use. Like Jitte didn't feel great. I don't know how I feel about some of these main deck silver bullets. Like some of them I used sometimes. A lot of times they were just like cards that weren't actively blasting my opponent in the face for a whole bunch of damage. Like you need some amount of utility. I feel like this deck has some legs. I would want to test it more to refine it. Like, I don't think I would fire this off and play this in a, like, Legacy Challenge this weekend or anything. But, like, the deck building's good. It has some classic Legacy combos of, like, Retrofitter Foundry and Ornithopter, Ancient Tomb, and Urza Saga, along with, like, a bunch of really good endgame mana sinks in the forms of, like, Nettle Cyst. But like we played against so much meltdown in this league, and like maybe that's one of the things that just kind of like tempering my thoughts on this deck list is that like people are playing their meltdowns and their serenities because like the painter 8 cast sort of deck has been doing well. So I don't know. This deck gets a thumbs up in terms of results. I love like the games were very fun to play, and we steamrolled every round except the first round for the most part. Like the games were tight, and we did lucky a couple of times. But yeah, I'm kind of rambling at this point. The sideways shaky thumbs up from me. Anthony, thank you very much for supporting this video, and I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, please click the like button on the way out. It helps out a lot, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!